Hello, everyone. This is Thomas Pepin, NHL Talk. I'm Thomas Pepin, and let's talk about the NHL. So, first, again, sorry, it's delayed getting started. Had some stuff getting in the way, so yeah. So, today's stream, we are going to be recapping the approximately first week of the regular season of the NHL. And of course, approximately because it started on the 10th of October, and it didn't make sense to do like a half week or mix it with anything. So, and also not much of great significance happens during the first week. So, or week-ish, so to blend it all together or combine it all together just made more sense. So that's what we're going to do, but on a weekly basis I'll do a recap of the main news stories. Oftentimes it's just going to be letting you know that something happened, because sometimes there might not be much to say, and then other things I might talk about a little bit more depending on, for one, my interest, and second, the complexity of the subject and likelihood that it would be interesting to you guys and all that kind of stuff. So anyways, so if you take a look at the description, that'll tell you the topics coming up, which on that note, actually, I should have that. Actually, you know what? Maybe I don't need it in another tab, because I have all the tabs pulled up already. So, so I guess I can share screen and get to it. So I'm doing this in chronological order for the news stories, and then once it gets to like broad recaps, then I'll cover a number of things in a row, or a number of things together. So, for example, like I'm not going to go into depth on scores, game recaps. People do all that stuff, and watching the replays, you guys can do on your own if you're interested, and it's going to get my video claimed anyway. So, what's the point in even doing it? So, yeah. So, anyways. So those kinds of things like scores, I'll probably just scroll through, see if anything stands out. And then standings will kind of draw it all together anyway, so there's not much of a point going through scores. Just like, for example, when I did the preseason recap, there was a, 10-0 Calgary beat Vancouver, something like that. So that's notable because a 10-0 win is pretty crazy. But if it's like a 6-2 win, that's nothing that crazy. 7-1's not even crazy. If you get to something like 9-1, then maybe I might talk about it. But yeah, generally all the rest of like the replays and individual games, you can look elsewhere for that. I'll just give you an idea of the broad picture of the league on any given week, basically, is the plan. So to start, as you can already see pulled up here, Howden was suspended for 2 games for an illegal check to the head. Again, to avoid having my video claimed, I'm not going to show the video. There's a link in the description. You can have a look at that. Not much to say beyond that. I don't think there were any other suspensions. Because it was just the preseason one for Kaliev. Howden, Dano find, Hathaway find. Actually, I should bookmark this. that'll make it easier to monitor for me. So that's that. Again, suspension, nothing really to say. To watch it and give my opinion, big deal. It's already done anyways. So next story is Lindy Ruff was signed to an extension. It says multi-year. I didn't see what the actual duration was. Couple more years? Does that mean 2? Where would I check for that? Should be under his profile. So it doesn't. So option for 4th year exercised, it says here. So that means that's for this season. Length unknown, salary unknown, but he's extended for at least 1 more season, it seems to be. So no more information beyond that. In my opinion, previously he's been a fantastic coach. Let's have a look at what his stats are. I think Hockey DB should have it. What? Oh, okay. There it is. So if you take a look at his track record, the wide majority of I was going to say the wide majority. Actually, it's more like half the seasons he made the playoffs. So maybe not that fantastic. What's his win-loss looking like? Positive, positive, positive. Break even, negative, positive, positive, positive. Positive, positive. Couple negatives, positive. So I'd say altogether, this might be easier to see it. So Lindy Ruff is 835, 653, 78, and 150, whatever, because it's a combination of all previous formats for tie breaks. So anyways, 0.487 win percentage, which looks to be, I can't put it in order by that, pretty reasonable. It's more the win-loss, I would say, is probably the best way to look at it rather than win percentage. Is that even right? Yeah. So if you take a look, win-loss, it's positive by enough. So he's one of the better coaches. Like you can just contrast directly below with Maurice. The difference is greater. Spread over less games. So one of the better, you could argue one of the better coaches, all things considered. So as far as I'm concerned, great for them. Good job, I think, keeping him. Of course, you never really know how things go. And every coach has their own shelf life. So at some point, they're not going to be able to produce results as they had in the past. So, Babcock as an example, although maybe he didn't get a clear opportunity after he left Toronto. Boudreau. You could maybe argue Laviolette. Stuff like that. So, I mean, not that any of Boudreau probably you'd say his coaching career is done, but Laviolette maybe still has time. Maybe with a new team he's going to do better. So just I'd say perfectly reasonable. I don't think they were necessarily as great as they performed, and so I would argue that he probably did a good job at coaching, but of course we'll see. And yeah. Bedard scored his first goal against Boston. Not much more to say than that. If I'm not mistaken, it was a wraparound. Smart to execute on the play and just get it done quickly. So he at least had a good enough mind to capitalize on the opportunity. So good for him. And what's his stats right now? 3 points in 5 games. As a rookie, just starting off, well, I don't know necessarily if you can expect him to be a point per game. It's not far off to start with not that great of a team behind him. So if I had to take a guess, my prediction is he probably won't be a point per game in all likelihood, because so I haven't watched him so closely. Like, I'm super confident in saying this, but he's not as fast as like a Connor McDavid, and as a result, I just don't think he'll be able to get enough open space to, like, I know he can score in small spaces, like you've seen it with his release, it's quite good, but just it's the NHL. I don't know. My gut instinct says that he's not going to be a point per game, but of course, who knows? We'll see. So anyways, that's kind of an update on Bedard. Maybe we can have, I guess, as part of the weekly thing, a Bedard watch. Not a bad idea. Actually, let's bookmark that, and I will add that. Oh, wait, because I'm going to be doing rookie stats anyways, so it'll be part of that. But just because it was a news story, cover it anyways. This article I didn't get to read, but apparently Mexico City could have some events. So they've been in Europe, China, Australia. Nothing really else to report. I understand when it comes to proximity to attempt to get some viewership in Mexico, but I have a feeling that let's see this. So Mexico ranks 37th in the IHF. So approximately the same as Australia. So if you're going to be doing anything in Australia, then Mexico would be probably close. It's not far off from some of the, starting to get into the hockey markets. Like Ukraine's, somewhat it's becoming, well, Ukraine, I would argue, is probably more of a hockey market than like Japan and China. But like Lithuania, Romania, it's not far off from all of them. So UAE's doing pretty good. That's surprising. It's kind of besides the point. All of this is to say that to try to get some eyes on the NHL from Mexico, proximity makes sense. Interest maybe might not be there. And it's not a cold region, so I don't know. It's a thought. You can always try. Nothing wrong with that. All right. So, Should I cover this now or later? I'll cover it in greater depth later. So just to comment and say that Owen Power was signed to a 7-year, $58.45 million contract, cap hit of 8.35. I'll talk more about that later, maybe give my thoughts on if it's a good deal. Alfredsson, if you didn't see, rejoins the Senators. It says in player development role, so apparently he's going to be a combination of coaching and what else? Player development and coaching. So, given that, don't be surprised if he actually becomes a coach. The fact that he's expressed interest and the team has expressed interest in him. For example, if the team doesn't perform as well, maybe he could come in as not, I would argue it'd be unlikely for him to come and go from this to head coach, but to maybe an assistant coach or something like that. So, so he's expressed interest in being involved in coaching, so just don't be surprised if he generally becomes a coach. So that's all I have to say about that. Same thing like the Owen Power thing. Devon Toews signed 7-year deal, cap hit of 7.25. So I'll talk more about that later. Matthews became the 5th player ever with back-to-back hat tricks to start a season. Who did? Minnesota Wild, Montreal Canadiens. So, pretty cool. Good for him. I think he's accumulated some more points besides that. Let's have a look. So he had... That's it, actually. I thought he produced more. So that's a funny thing is like everybody's... I'll talk more about this later. Just how news outlets just exaggerate to crazy degrees. Everybody's talking about, Austin Matthews is on a scoring tear. Well, no. He scored 3 goals in 2 different games. In 2 other games, he scored no goals, no points. So he's only really doing well in half his games, you could argue. So is that really that great? I don't know. It's just like I said, the media is just wild. So anyways, good for him starting off with a couple of hat tricks, but no points in the next 2 games. So there you go. Kirby Dach is out for the season with a torn ACL, MCL, which is pretty rough. Some tough injuries there. I believe he's relatively decent performing. Less than I would have predicted. So, like, ballpark, you could predict half a point per game kind of player. So not a crazy loss at his cap hit. I'd say they're missing decent value, if that is correct, the $3.3 million cap hit. But so big injury. I'll talk more about injuries later. This I thought was very interesting. So Kane's holding off talks until he's cleared for play. And so in the preseason recap, it said about a month, if I'm not mistaken, until he would be able to return approximately. And then that would have turned out being, I think right now that he would be expected to play again. Give me a sec. Let's see. Because I have it in the previous stream. Where is it here? Number 4. At least one more month as of 21st of September. So yeah, I did remember correctly. So ballpark now he should be healthy. In all likelihood, I'm guessing that there's probably going to be a week, maybe even 2, until he's actually ready. At least one more month, and he's probably going to want to be fully healthy, because what's the point in coming back and getting injured again? Because I think he's had issues with his hip, yeah. So, and then there's rumors of all sorts of teams that he could go play with. They're rumors until something happens, so I'm not going to bother talking about that. So all of this is to say that Kane is probably going to make a decision in the next week or 2, so expect to see him get signed by somebody. All right, so this brings me to the thing that really annoys me. So like I spoke about Matthews and how some of the news stories were saying, oh, Matthews is on a scoring tear. Well, like I just said, he scored 3 goals, which is great, twice, which is great, but 2 other games he has no points. So he's only, like I said, producing at half of the games. Yeah, he's over a point per game and it's all goals. Fantastic, good for him. But you need to be consistent. That consistency is better. So, for example, if he scored 1 goal and had 2 assists in all 4 games, would you rather 4 goals, 8 assists in 4 games, or 6 goals in 4 games? Yeah. So, anyway, so that's one extreme where they're like all hyped up about somebody. On the other extreme here, I've seen at least a couple articles that say, oh, is like look, actually you can see this here. So the talking point, has Ovechkin passing Gretzky gone from lock to question mark? It's so ridiculous. So let's just pull this up here. So he has 1 assist in 3 games. Is that great? No. Is that bad? It's 3 games. It's 3 games. Can it just... It's 3 games. Like, oh my God. So, I mean, I looked at things, and read things further. He was held without a shot in back-to-back games for the first time in his career. Blah, 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 blah. And yeah, now he's... Look, he would need to average just over 24 goals over the next 3 seasons to hit Gretzky's mark. So it's like... He doesn't have to actually produce that much. He's averaging, 40 goals a season? Like, it was super funny. What season was it here? Where was it? I think it was 2010-11, if I'm not mistaken. That or 2016-17. So there was a season where everybody's like, oh, Ovechkin, they've solved the Ovechkin problem, everybody knows how to defend him. He only scored 32 goals or 33 goals, only 33 goals. They've solved them. Then just you wait. The next season, 51, 53, 50. Yeah, 33 again. 49, 51, 48 in less games. 24 and 45, 50 and 77, 42 and 73. It's really slowing down. Like, it's 3 games in and they're like, the sky's falling. It's just so ridiculous. Like, I know they're trying, like, this, I'm talking about it. So what they've done works in that sense. But it's just like, the sensationalism of media is just ridiculous. And maybe this is actually a great example of what I'm not going to cover moving forward. Because I would find something, I'm sure I'm going to find something every single week that's going to be like this. And I don't want to give them more eyes to view their crappy articles talking about stupid subjects. So, is that going to make my recaps maybe slightly less entertaining than they could be if I vented like this? Yes. But it's like I said, some of these media companies don't deserve eyeballs for their stupid stories. They're just trying to bring up controversy, and it's so tiring. And we keep seeing this and have seen it for so long, and it's just like, enough. So it's a good point actually to even remind me just not to cover this stuff. So if I see it, just don't even look at it and ignore it. So and then you get the extreme opposite with, so for example, TSN is super Leafs positive. So like biased for the Leafs. And so I'm pretty sure it's the same source that was like, Matthews is doing fantastic. And it's like, yeah, fantastic in 2 games of 4. So anyways, enough of that. Injuries. So we'll go back to the start of the season, so the 11th, and see if there's any long durations. Kirby Dach out the season, we saw that. Anything like a month or so, I'm not going to really bring up. Velarde being out till November 22nd, that's now a month. So over a month, I'd say, is maybe worth bringing up. You know, it's a reasonably important player to the team, but not the end of the world. Besides that, really no critical injuries. So most of it's pretty short term, 4 days, a week, maybe a couple weeks in a few cases. So nothing too crazy. If you're interested, of course, you can have a look at the link. That I didn't include, but I'll go back and include it after the stream. That's that. Any waiver claims? I don't believe since the start of the season. So no waiver claims. Foodie just got placed on waivers, and the only reason I know this is because I saw the headline. He was a first-round pick, so I would predict he's probably going to get claimed. Of course, who knows, but I would say with that, so if you're ever a first-round pick, somebody's going to take a chance on you. I don't know how much he costs. Yeah, so he's on an extension of like league minimum salary, so with RFA status at the end. So I would be shocked if he doesn't get claimed. But again, is he going to be overly impactful? I don't think his performance has been that fantastic anyways. So 14 points because I thought he was a defenseman. Okay, never mind. Still, nonetheless, I mean, 14 points in 62 games. Minus 26 is pretty horrendous, but yeah, somebody's probably going to claim him. So yeah, that's that. Signings. So here's where I will discuss things in greater depth. So we got Owen Power and Devon Toews to discuss. So Owen Power, as I mentioned, 8.35 per 7 years. Like, I know he's got great pedigree. First overall first round pick. Great. 35 points in 79 games for his rookie season. Quite good. So if you're going to do a contract with such little track record, he's the type of guy you would do it with. 8.35. I wouldn't even want to spend that on a good quality defenseman. Like, it would be the rare case, like a Makar or something like that. I mean, Makar, you could even argue is more more cap hit you'd be able to accept, but not enough of a track record, good pedigree. I mean, if you're gonna sign him, for me, it would always be a bridge unless it's a guy that you know is a stud. Like, if he was producing a point per game after a couple seasons, yeah, go for an 8-year contract. But 7 years at that much of a cap hit, I don't like it at all. So I would do a bridge 2 to 3 years, and then maybe a decent contract after that. Well, probably because you have 1 year of history, maybe even a bridge of 1 or 2 years, I could be willing to accept. But to have 1 year of track record, it's like, I just don't think it's wise. So if it turns out being a point per game player, then yeah, I'll be proven wrong. But 8.35, ugh. And I don't like a lot of the contracts so far in Buffalo, so I don't know if I like Adams as a GM. So yeah, I mean, I would have wanted a bridge, like I said, 1 to 3 years maybe of, for him, based on that 1 year, I'd be okay with 6, maybe even 7 million I'd be willing to accept, but you need to have that shorter term to at least give you flexibility. Then you know what their actual worth is for a long-term contract, like 7 to 8 years. So if you're going to do that, which I would avoid. So an overpay could turn out being fantastic value. Maybe is market value, but I don't like it myself. Devon Toews, on the other hand, I am fully on board with. So he signed an extension, 7.25 per 7 years. Currently 29. That brings him to 36, which maybe I would argue you'd want to shave off a year or two, but that's okay. 7.25 for who I know is an extremely effective two-way defenseman. Like 15 points in 20 games in the playoffs. That's the year they won the cup, I believe. 50 points in 80 games, 57 in 66, 31 in 53. Like, I mean, he's along the lines in terms of performance. Not quite a Makar, obviously. Makar produces it the same as like a forward, which is ridiculous, which is why I'd be willing to spend a whole bunch on him. He's not quite there, but if anybody you're going to spend $8 million I would spend it on a guy like Toews. So, like, because I've argued against McAvoy with Boston, and let's just contrast for interest's sake. So, is Devon Toews a better defenseman than McAvoy? I would probably say yes. Now, have I seen enough to know this with absolute confidence? No. Have I seen Toews play enough to know how good he is? I'd say yes, because I watched him quite closely when he was with the Islanders, and enough over other stretches. So, again, not so much that I'm so confident. I could be maybe wrong from a very, skilled, like an NHL scout or something like that. But I would argue probably as good, maybe even better than McAvoy. McAvoy is making 9.5, whereas Toews is going to be making 7.25. So it's like, what's McAvoy's production? Essentially the exact same. 57 and 66. 56 and 78. 52 and 67. 50 and 80. It's like ballpark the same. With defensemen, it'll fluctuate a chunk. And between the two, they're approximately the same. So what? 232 in 383. 186 in 318. So I don't know the math of it, but it's... All right, let's do the math. 186 divided by 318. 232 divided by 383. Like basically the exact same. Maybe McAvoy's slightly more productive, but I would argue probably. Again, I haven't seen enough that I can say this with absolute certainty, but Devon Toews is probably better defensively. So you more or less you could put them as equal. And one guy's making 7.25, the other guy's making 9.5. That's 2.25 million you could spend on another player. That's huge in terms of getting proper value out of players. So I would argue that Toews is probably under market value and a great contract, maybe, like I said, a bit long. People are playing later in life. So you could say that it's towards market value because of the extra years, but I'd say it's a fantastic contract. I mean, you can't really pull off better oftentimes with GMs nowadays. So I really like the contract. Great for Colorado to lock up two really good defensemen. So having those two strong defensemen is like it makes a difference. So that's it for signings in the first week-ish of the season. There was a trade, Rathbone and Plasek, for Friedman and Glover. So nothing of great significance, but trade nonetheless. Scores since the start of the season, nothing stands out last time I checked. 8-1 Canucks over Oilers was the Oilers had a bunch of criticism in the media over that, but I mean, it's early in the season, who cares? So upsets, there's not any point of me talking about them because it's going to happen often in the early regular season. You'll have teams that like turn out hugely missing the playoffs, starting off like 10-0. That kind of stuff happens often. So, so really there's no point in talking about too much here. that's about it. So more important is how things sit in the standings. So this might not be bad to pull up now. Just give me 1 sec to do it. So I made my preseason predictions for the standings, and it actually would be cool, I think, to compare them on a weekly basis. Not necessarily because you guys want to see it, but it gives me an idea of if things are going as I expected. So let's pull this up. So we have the... I don't know if that actually did pull it up. So we have the Atlantic first on the list here. So I had Leafs, Bruins, Panthers, Lightning. Senators and Red Wings, I said could very easily be in. And at this moment, they're both doing well. I mean, only 4 games in, but I'm not at all surprised by either of those. So good for them, kind of as expected, because, like I said, most of those teams are interchangeable. Maybe, like I think I said, the Leafs and Bruins I would have as locks of making the playoffs. Where they sit, I don't know. And then Panthers, Lightning, I wasn't so certain. Senators, Red Wings, I could easily see stepping over Panthers, Lightning. So to have it sit like that right now is not surprising. Flyers to be 3-1. I have them to finish at the bottom. Again, with Tortorella, sometimes, and they had so many injuries last season that I think I said this before, that it's not crazy for Philly to turn out making the playoffs. And like Carter Hart, if everything went well, like that one season when Carter Hart was playing great, they could make the playoffs. It's such an even league that I just wouldn't be surprised. So not so surprised there. Hurricanes I have at the top. They currently sit in second. Islanders I have set to be second. They currently sit third. Fewer games played. Point percentage is better. So, behind that, for the rest of the East, I mean, everything's kind of as expected. It's kind of like I was saying, there's not really anybody that I expect to be at the bottom except for Canadiens, probably Flyers, and then the rest, Capitals could make the playoffs. Devils, I'm not high on them. A lot of other people are. They could make the playoffs. So really, for everybody, for it to be this big log jam right now is not surprising at all. So nothing there of great significance, except maybe you could argue Toronto being 2-2 to start the season, but it's 4 games. As we saw with the Ovechkin thing with Toronto, it's not the end of the world to be 2-2 to start. So likewise for everybody else, and even 1-3 or 1-2 for Washington. So not much really to say, just kind of giving a lay of the land, so to speak. So Colorado, I put to kind of take a step back. Currently, they sit first. So in that regard, I guess I'm wrong. But again, it's still early. Who knows? And I mean, it wouldn't be crazy if they finished first in their division. But we'll see. Dallas, for them to be where they are, is exactly what I was expecting. I actually think they're going to be a great team this season. One of my favorites to win the Cup. Wild, I don't know how they play so well because I don't think their team's that great. But nonetheless, they're right there. But again, logjam. Everybody's kind of all 50 point percentage. So Vegas 5-0 to start the season. I have them to finish first in the conference. Do I have them to finish first in the conference? Give me a sec here. No, I have the Stars to finish first in the conference, probably because of um, fatigue from going to the Stanley Cup final. So, anyways, but we'll see. I mean, great start, good for them. So, Kings to be where they are, it's kind of as I expected. I predicted third. They're right up there. Flames, I have them making the playoffs. They're ballpark right there. Mind you, they've got one more game played than a lot of other teams. Yeah, and then behind that, it's pretty much a logjam, like I said. Oilers, maybe a bad start. To note there, 1-3. Kraken, I'm not that high on, so for them to be where they are, it's not surprising to me. St. Louis, with that kind of record at 3 games, I would expect that they're going to go upwards because they've got points in 2 of 3. So, but anyways, I'm biased because I predicted them to make the playoffs. So we'll see. So no major surprises. So for both conferences, it's basically Toronto and Edmonton. That should be better. Everything else is kind of within the range of normal. Yeah, and I mean, with just such an even league, none of it's surprising anymore. And so I think that's it. There's not really anything else to say. So that kind of gives you a lay of the land for the first week of the season. So, I mean, nothing's obviously decided in the first week. Well, week plus in this case. So, trends probably aren't even established or close to being established. Like another thing I saw, there was another article that was like, will slow starts come back to haunt? I think it was like Buffalo Sabres and I don't know who else, Washington Capitals or whatever. It's like he played 3 games, like Capitals played 3 games. Like I don't know offhand what Buffalo was, but it's like slow start. Like 3 games is like what percentage is it? 3 divided by 82. 3.7% of the season. Like, come on. There's teams that come back from like being well out of the playoffs to making the playoffs, like 20 games out. So it's like, give it a break, guys. It's all this sensationalism that's just so annoying. So I would argue probably until the quarter point of the season, a lot of this is just going to be for information's sake. We might start to see trends at like 15, 20 games. I did have I published this? Because I did my own study for my sports betting, which was really interesting. Give me a sec if I can find it here. Just talking about trends or considering trends when it comes to likelihood of making the playoffs. So just bear with me a sec here. I want to see. Playoff likelihood. I think that's the one. I'm pretty sure I didn't publish this. I can't remember. But anyways, so for example, at the 15 game mark, you could have a team that, so 3 of 112. Yeah. So this is based on data excluding the pandemic seasons. I think in total it's like 9 or 10 seasons. Well, what would 112 be? 112 divided by 16, 7 seasons. So what I did is I took a look at the points accumulated at different at every 5 games throughout the season, starting at 15 games, to see the percentage of teams that made the playoffs based on the number of points they accumulated. So, for example, 3 teams had between 9. What is that number? I don't know what that is. Okay, anyways, just another number that I wasn't sure how it was included. But 3 teams of 112 started off this season with between 9 and 12 points in 15 games. So that means, below 500, and in some cases, almost a quarter point or a quarter points percentage. So the start, it's not really all that critical. Of course, more points in the bag is better. The most frequent range of points was 17 to 18 points at 15 games. So basically, teams are at 500. The majority of teams that made the greatest frequency of teams that made the playoffs came at nearly 500 point percentage. So just think about that. So early on in the season, that means that really being at 500 is like good enough. It's perfectly good enough. It's more towards later on in the season. So that's an important thing. I'm going to go back and see if I have spoken of this before, because this actually would be a great stream to talk about, or a great subject to talk about in a stream. So, because now that I'm not using this for betting, why not share it with everybody? So, so going back to what I was saying is basically the start of the season, probably up to, at least a quarter point, more towards like the halfway point is probably when you start to get really good trends. Even that, looking at my spreadsheet here, how many games was that? So greatest frequency was almost at just slightly above 500 again. It's really 65 games is really where you start to see like almost certain where people are going to finish. So anyways, long story short, really, it's, as long as you're within range throughout most of the season, you're fine. So all these weekly recaps are more informational than anything. I'm never going to take and you should neither take them too seriously in the end, because really so much can change even as close to the playoffs as 17 games away. So it's like, anyways, so that's kind of how things are going to go, as you've seen. I guess I should say it's always done on the spot, no prep work except for subjects. So, as you can see, just kind of running through things relatively quickly. It still takes an hour to go through it all, but That's kind of what you can expect from these weekly recaps. So maybe just more efficient next time because now I've done a practice run live. So, yeah, so we'll leave it there. So if you like the stream, hit the like button, share with your friends, subscribe, turn on notifications. The channel homepage has upcoming streams on regular NHL content. Next stream, well, so always these types of streams. So Friday afternoon will be whatever random topic I decide to talk about. Friday midnight Eastern will be the weekly recap. I'm doing them on Fridays. Technically, a week actually ends on a Saturday, but I'm going to do mine on Fridays just because it fits my schedule. So that's what you can expect every week. That same sort of schedule. For things I can't schedule ahead of time, like franchise mode, that schedule's in the About section of the channel. It runs Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, 10:30 p.m. Eastern. And just a reminder, so I'm not going to switch over to NHL 24 until all the patches are done, because I just don't want to start a franchise mode with glitches and problems with the game. So I'll wait until that's all resolved. Also, I'm waiting for, hopefully maybe it goes on sale before then. Should save myself a couple bucks, but I was going to wait anyways. So that's that. Be a pros whenever I have time or feel like it. Haven't had time, have felt like it. I'm just unfortunate, don't have enough time sometimes. Any comments, leave them in the comments. Suggestions likewise. And we will see you guys. Today is Friday. Tomorrow, nothing. Sunday for franchise mode. So thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you guys then. Okay, bye.